Hi everyone, so welcome to this intro video. We're going to talk through some important things to keep in mind before we get into some of the detail of what's included in the CPC. So the first thing to remember and approach the CPC with this sort of mindset is the fact that we have an open book policy and the CPC is included in your CGA handbooks and is one of the documents that we can be taking into our test or exams. And that is important. You need to approach it knowing that, and obviously starting to, when you do your practice questions, utilizing it. Why is it important? Well, it is not possible to try and memorize the whole CPC. That wouldn't be practical. It would be like trying to memorize your tax act, for example. Sure, there are principles and policies of it that we can memorize. Remember the fact that it is principle based, which you've touched on already, and part 1 of the CPC is filled with the principles, okay, and those principles flow through to parts 2, 3, and 4. And so if you understand the principles, sure, you might be able to have a subjective debate in a given exam or a given scenario that is presented to you. But often there are specific requirements of the CPC that need to be applied. For example, you know, if you set certain fees, or you're marketing your services in a certain way, or you're providing additional services, we need to refer to the CPC and apply the context of it. Some elements of it you might remember, others you might not. Do not try and memorize the whole document. The intention of these lessons are not for you to memorize. You need to have an awareness of how it's made up, its framework, and potentially how to use that CPC in a test or exam scenario. So when you do your practice questions, start with that in mind. So the next thing, and to kind of link to that, is practice with it, okay? Practice with the CPC, practice using it, practice open it and referencing it as and when necessary in questions. So that forms an important part of becoming competent with the CPC. I think the other thing to keep in mind is across other subjects, as you approach it, always have the CPC in mind, and be thinking from an FR, math, and a tax perspective. You know, in your scenarios, and as you presented those in questions and across those subjects, ask the lecturers questions about if there are ethical considerations in the context of those scenarios. We often see in ITC, ethics and the CPC and application thereof is assessed across the subjects, because remember, it is applicable to CASAs, and CASAs provide a number of services outside just providing audit services. The next thing I wanted to ask or just keep in mind is that in the importance of application, apply/application. Okay, you hear this a lot, but you're not going to get marks for memory dumping aspects of the CPC in your solution. You need to be applying it to the specifics of the scenario, and often that's just a small adjustment to your answer. It might be using the names of the people involved or the names of the companies and talking to the specifics and applying the principles of the CPC to the specifics of your scenario. If you do not apply, again, we're not going to see you getting marks. Okay, and the last point I wanted to talk to was the fact that the CPC, given we've already touched on it, it is principle-based. And what does that result in? Principle-based frameworks and guidance result in different solutions, different perspectives. Okay, remember that you can subjectively view something in a certain way differently to someone else. So when you review the solution, do not see that as the only solution. Engage with the solution, try and understand their perspective. Maybe your perspective is slightly different. And if you're unsure if your perspective is correct, important to ask the question. When we mark these types of questions, it's more about ensuring the student has applied their mind, they've applied the principles of the code, they might have reached a different solution if it's open to a different solution. And that's fine as long as there's been a constructive debate and discussion. What is incorrect is to just look at a solution that's as prescribed and say, okay, mine's different, move on. We need to understand your solution might be correct, but for different reasons. And that's important to go in with that frame of mind when you're looking at the solutions in the practice questions that you might do. Thank you very much.